User's my new baby. New Babies. We got her on newbabies.com. That's not true. That's not a real website.
Now, I assumed this dog had a name, but that the name was not public.
No name yet.
Okay.
We're not sure. You can't just give a sweet baby like this a name.
Well, I know in some cultures it's bad luck to tell people the name too early, so maybe I thought that was what was happening.
It's bad luck to tell people the name too early?
Yeah, I think it's an Orthodox Jewish thing. They don't tell people the name until they're 2 weeks old because
that kind of
the
rules.
Grim Reaper or something. Yeah, it's great.
You don't want the Reaper.
Oh, like you can't find the baby unless he knows its name.
That's right. Yeah, name's not public. It's like the name has never been spoken out loud in public, something like that.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, I'm always dancing around a fire, singing my name in secret.
Grim Reaper fans in the chat watching this or listening to this afterwards, please get at me. Let me know who does that. It sounds very cool to me. Let us make a journey to the Cave of Monsters. It's Insert Credit, the only video game podcast on the internet living in constant fear of a horrible buzzer. I'm Dirtbag Regular Colin, aka MoxBagel, filling in for Alex Jaffe, and my favorite train in video games is the XS Express in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Oh man. Hi, this is Frank Cifaldi, a frequent guest of the Insert Credit show, perhaps even a permanent one. My favorite train in video games. Let me think about that. I don't know that I've ever pointed at a train in a game and went, that's a good train. The one that's coming to mind for me, just because I like the overall aesthetic of most things in that game, is Final Fantasy VII's train.
Oh yeah, great train.
Let's go with that. Great train.
That's a train. I'm Tim Rogers, and my favorite train in video games is the Yamanote line as seen in Densha Go Final for the PlayStation 2. And that is my final answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Mathew Kumar. I'm here filling in for Brandon for a change. My favorite train in video games. I mean, there's just so many, aren't there? I think because I've been playing through Karateka recently, the making of Karateka, it just put me in mind of Jordan Mechner's The Last Express. So I'm going to say that one.
Yeah, great train.
The literal Orient Express is your favorite. Yeah, okay.
A real train game right there.
Yeah.
Yep, and that train is in many games. There's lots of homages to that train. I feel like the Wolfenstein: The New Order has a version of a very similar train to that.
I'm glad that nobody said their favorite train in video games is the train verb from the game Brain Training, because that would have made me upset if somebody had said that. So thanks.
I thought for sure the Phantom Train from Final Fantasy VI would come up because
it's too
the
obvious.
Memory of suplexing it is just
too obvious.
You can suplex the train, is what people say whenever anyone mentions Final Fantasy VI. There's just a whole bunch of Gen Z, TikTok, Fortnite nightmare children just walking around in their bathrobes made of Mardi Gras beads or whatever it is the kids do now, saying, Final Fantasy VI, you can suplex a train, right? That's it. That's all they know about it, right? Bunch of Fortnite nightmares.
Yep, a new person every day.
Bunch of YouTube video watching children's. God darn, just throwing up on my lawn and such, right?
When we were talking about trains there, I was thinking just racking my brain for different trains, Mm-hmm. And I was like, Brenda Romero's train. I was like, that can't be anybody's favorite train.
No.
And then I was like, the train that Nathan Drake hangs off in Uncharted 2. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's fine.
There's a lot of trains that are just a bunch of flat platforms so you can jump and kick guys on them. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles always have a train level in some of those games. Or there's that one in Shadows of the Empire that is called a junk train, and you have to jump between it quite a bit. It's not a good train, but it is memorable.
I like the joke in Uncharted 2 when you're fighting on that train for so long, and at some point Nathan Drake's like, how long is this train? It's pretty funny, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I really like those type of spaces in video games, when you're oh, you know what's a good one? Unreal Tournament had that train level, or the original Unreal Tournament. That's a great level. Should have said that, actually. But no, Last Express is really cool. I mean, and who doesn't love the Orient Express? Not my favorite of the Poirots, but, still a solid train.
Yeah.
I'd like to go on it.
Yeah, I was racking my brain about it today, too. I'm surprised that there aren't more, comfy trains, rural pastoral trains. Animal Crossing was the only one I could really think of.
Oh yeah, when you meet the cat before going to which one is that?
I think it's New Leaf, the 3DS one.
Because the 2DS, not the 2DS, the original DS one is a taxi, right?
I think so.
You're on a train at the beginning of the very first Animal Crossing on the Nintendo 64, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do question 1.
All right.
All right.
When has depriving you of your equipment or weapons felt best in a video game?
When you start with nothing and then you get the stuff real fast, and then never again. I don't know. I think Tears of the Kingdom did it very well, where it has, I believe, the best you lose all your stuff presentation of all games in game history. Did y'all play Tears of the Kingdom?
Nope.
You know how you start Symphony of the Night and you've got a whole bunch of stuff, and Alucard is killing these screen-sized monsters with one hit, and they scream and they gush blood and there's lightning, and you're like, I'm so cool. And then death just kind of kicks you in the nuts. That doesn't feel good, in my opinion. But in Tears of the Kingdom, it was it felt metal as heck when Link gets deprived of all his powers by Ganon at the beginning of the game. I thought that was really neat. It's a nice little twist. I don't know if it felt good though.
Well, but almost right afterward, you get to glue swords together, so there's like further empowerment than was possible previously. That did feel good.
Yeah, it's but then I guess everybody likes that Link's Awakening Island in Breath of the Wild, right? Where you gotta rebuild. You have none of your equipment. You lose all your equipment and stuff, right? People thought that was good. But I think it's a cheap trick to start you real strong and then take it all away from you, because it's like you're going to get back there someday.
I don't know if it's a cheap trick. It's just there was no reason to keep repeating it, I feel.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, after I don't know, like I'm sure something predates this, maybe even Super Metroid. But
Super
the first
Metroid,
one
yeah.
I remember was Metroid Prime did that, and it felt pretty pointless in that game because I didn't remember any of those powers. You know what I mean? Like it took so long to get them back that by the time I got it, I wasn't like, oh yeah, that thing's finally back.
It's such a trope now of AAA games, right? Like that they're like, we need to show you how cool and fun this game is eventually going to be, but right now it's not going to be. But pretty soon it's not going to be fun at all. Like the worst example, like I actually hate it. Like there's no situation where I could say I've ever thought this is a cool way to do things, but. When I played through Days Gone recently, that's like the perfect example of why that trope does work. You show up in like a really awesome bike that feels good to ride, and then you immediately lose it, and then the rest of for like what feels like 12 hours, you're riding the slowest, shittiest bike ever around a massive map, and you're like, why would you show me something fun and then maybe do nothing fun for like 12 hours? And like that's all they want to do now. I'm anti it.
I still think Days Gone is better than a lot of other modern video games, in my opinion. But I liked that stupid game, man. I don't know about you, but I had a pretty good time with that game.
It's got some fun stuff in it, but the use of tropes like that very tedious.
Did you play it on PlayStation 4 or did you play it at 4K 120 frames per second rock solid on PC? Serious question.
Yeah, the PlayStation 4 because I'm cheap.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, maybe the rock solid 4K 120 on the PC made me enjoy it. Made me not mind the slow bike so much.
Sure.
Yeah, it felt faster.
Yeah, having to... Oh, all right.
Question 2. What video game house would you want to live in, and where would you build it?
Do I have to? Like, I have to live in it?
Yeah.
Mario's house from Super Mario RPG with the big pipe in the top. And I would build it in Fortnite land so I could parachute through the pipe. I could skydive into the pipe and then have all my guns in there, right? Is that the kind of answer you're looking for with this?
You know, I thought you were going to say, like, I'm going to build Mario's house, but I'm going to put it in suburban Detroit or something. But the idea of putting it in another video game had not crossed my mind.
All my guns in there in a question block. Hit it, and I've got my shotgun, my machine gun, my 45, my 357.
Who's actually got a good house? Like
my Desert Eagle.
Lara Croft has a really big one, right? With like stuff to dive into. Does that sound right?
Yeah, the training mode. Perfect Dark, Joanna Dark house.
That's a good house.
As well.
What about Zell's house in Ballamtown? Great house. Those stone sloping walls. Gorgeous.
Could be sweet. Might be sweet.
I have no idea what you're referring to. Right
Final Fantasy VIII, bro.
Oh, got it.
What about Aerith's house?
With all the flowers
Final Fantasy
surrounding
VII. Or even better, the remake. It's
No, too many memories of her, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Aerith is there. She's in that house. Trying to think of good video game houses, bro.
I mean, what's the value of a video game house specifically? Do you know what I mean? Like, what sets a video game house apart from just a normal house?
Yeah, being able to walk around inside of a simulated house that feels like a nice house that doesn't feel like anything in the real world, and just having the ability to walk around in there and hang out in there. Occasionally during a video game, you think it would be cool if I could go to a place like this in real life. So I guess with a video game house, the appeal is thinking it would be cool to rent this on Airbnb, right? Something like that. Is that it?
I mean, House is right. It's all about location, right? So, like, which video game house is in the best location that you'd want to be?
Good question.
Yeah, that's true. Like, Cauldron Lake Lodge in Alan Wake is an incredible building, but you wouldn't want to go there because it's full of darkness demons of various types.
Exactly. So you'd want to move it somewhere else.
There's some good Grand Theft Auto houses that you move into, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's all those, like, in Grand Theft Auto Online, you like every like apartment you can buy is like incredible and obviously in an amazing location. I mean, obviously in a location where you step outside your house and you immediately get run over by a car or shot, but you know.
Other than that, right? Yeah.
Other than that.
I like the house you get at the true ending of a Cyberpunk 2077. It's a nice house, but you don't really get to hang out there too much. It's a good house though. I'd chill there. I think your regular old apartment in Cyberpunk 2077 is one of my favorite like apartments that a character lives in. And I also think the apartment you start in System Shock is really good as well.
I mean, in terms of location, like I can't even remember. Do you ever see Kazuma Kiryu's house, like, or where his apartment? Like, you only ever see him in bars, right?
No, you don't know. You don't know what his house is. He probably lives in some apartment with just bare walls. And...
Although he does live in the orphanage in 3, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good house.
I'd smoke weed there.
I assumed in most of those games he's just like sleeping at the back of that bar.
Yeah, me too, actually. That's why I always assumed could be worse. Great location.
He sleeps standing up on the train, probably, because, you know, he works all night.
All right, question 3. If we've had Bubble Bobble, Puzzle Bobble, and Bobble Roulette, what other Bobble genres should Taito explore?
Trouble Bobble. It's an open world Grand Theft Auto style game set in the Bubble Bobble world, where you can play as Bub and Bob, and you can switch between them like in Grand Theft Auto 5. It's called Trouble Bobble. In it, Drug Lord is taking over their city, and they need to start selling their own drugs, or whatever it is you do in Grand Theft Auto these days.
What's their house going to be like?
Yeah, is it a really sweet apartment?
Yeah, it's a miniature castle.
And so it's like a gritty Grand Theft Auto city, not like a Dragon Ball Toriyama, kind of fanciful city, right?
Well, I think it's kind of a perfect seamless blend of the two. It's gritty, but it's also manga. Is that idea just too good for everybody?
Yeah, that's
Bobble?
just it. Yeah.
I just keep thinking about
Trouble Bobble. These two tiny dinosaurs are about to kill every drug dealer in Bubbleopolis. There you go.
I mean, it's the natural progression, I think, for these two characters.
Yeah,
Drug
absolutely.
dealers. If you look at the clues that Taito left in the existing games, I mean, what else are they going to do?
Well, and they've been increasingly monetized too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to get them all.
I like to think that it was like Bub and Bob maybe went to school with some of the drug dealers, and it will be very hard to kind of consider their personal allegiances.
I think you get all of your other Taito arcade game characters in there. You get your Elevator Action Returns characters. You get the Ninja Warriors in there, right? Like the Ninja Warriors. The game opens with the Ninja Warriors being sent to kill Bub and Bob in their high rise, and they get rescued by the Elevator Action people. The Ninja Warriors are the antagonists until, the twist halfway through. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay, so it's sort of a Taito world.
A big
thing.
Deus Ex Machina thing happens at the end where the Space Invaders attack.
Oh, is it sort of a Watchmen ending where that unites everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It unites them all and they fight back the Space Invaders.
Who's the big bad in the Taito world? Like, who's like the over drug lord? Is it like Rocky from Pocky and Rocky or something like that?
I don't know. Who would it be?
I'm having a hard time thinking of Taito games. So hang on.
There's a lot of Taito games, bro.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
A healthy helping of them, we could say.
Back to 1967 if you're going electromechanical, apparently.
That's too long ago.
Oh man, they did Toki.
Oh, going ape spit?
Yeah, that guy goes ape spit. No one wants that.
I don't want that, no.
Apparently Taito did a Hatsune Miku game. Can Miku be in this?
No,
Is she the big bad?
that's an external property. Let's not get ridiculous.
You don't want to mess with the purity of the world.
Yeah, because it's all about Bub and Bob, Trouble Bobble.
Probably an ice rink in the city, and Hit the Ice takes place in there.
Oh,
yeah.
HTI.
Yeah, little Taito games all over the city.
Oh, the Power Blade guys running around.
It would really just be a delicious experience for all fans of all things Taito.
Sometimes when you're driving, you get chased by the Chase HQ guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this sounds great. I would play this.
Trouble Bobble.
All right, time.
Okay, but we got to put Kickmaster in there because Kickmaster rules.
Oh, yeah.
Kickmaster kicks you and then knocks you into orbit at one point.
Yeah.
Kickmaster would be like their police chief who trained them, and his death is what sends them off the force. And they go private.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think Bub and Bob would be like private detectives in this world.
Yeah, they're not cops. We agree on
Yeah,
that.
they're not lucky and wild.
They are neither lucky nor wild, these two.
Question 4. How big of an influence on Dragon Quest is Akira Toriyama's art? What would be different if the designs had been drawn by, for instance, Rumiko Takahashi or a Western artist like Mobius?
Shoot. If I recall correctly, Yuji Horii specifically sought out Akira Toriyama, like specifically wanted Toriyama for it. They were all in on it together. So it being different would be quite different indeed. I think what might be different about it, I mean, I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything. Rumiko Takahashi, one of the few manga artists who had more than 2 giant hit series in her career, right? It's kind of unheard of for a lot of other people out there. But I feel like if it weren't Toriyama, it probably wouldn't have been popular or as popular. I think it would have kind of fallen flat because Toriyama he was so hot at that time with Dragon Ball and coming off a Dr. Slump and everything. He was such a hot property that
it was a selling point in Japan.
I just couldn't imagine it. I mean, wizardry and such were pretty big and pretty beloved in Japan, but I feel like having a Western art style in Dragon Quest would have. I feel like it wouldn't have had the promotional pop because the promotion was the thing in Japan. If you've seen the promotional art for the original Dragon Quest, it's all just some top tier AAA, grade A, solid gold, platinum class, diamond star, admiral's club levels of marketing and advertising illustration. It was just absolute top of the top tier. They really, really were quite savvy about it.
That's a good point, that there were many, many high fantasy games in that era that had more Western style art, like Falcom had some stuff that had some really interesting stuff going on, but maybe if they didn't have Toriyama, Dragon Quest would be more undercover, more of a gamer's game.
Yeah, more for just the hardcore.
I thought Tim was finishing a sentence, but then the dog situation happened.
Sorry, there was some signaling going on.
Just so listeners understand the sudden silence, we were watching a dog situation.
I was being asked repeatedly and silently if I wanted to take this dog here, and so I did, and I was like, "Bring it on!" So now I have this dog on me. What a dog!
I don't know. It's really hard for me to divorce the look because they've never strayed from that. Does he still do character designs, or are they just doing his style?
He's at a point now where he's got a studio, I believe, of people, but also, they put his name on the character designs. He probably does them. There have literally been only 12 mainline or 11 mainline Dragon Quest games, so it's like probably not too much to imagine he's done all of the main character designs himself. I feel like somebody like Mobius could have done it, but that would have been a vastly different game. Or maybe not a vastly different game. It would have been a different... Mobius did the box art for the original Panzer Dragoon in Japan. We all know this, right? It's one of the most beautiful looking video game package illustrations of all time. But that didn't exactly make the Sega Saturn defeat the Dreamcast, or not the Dreamcast, defeat the PlayStation or anything. You right? It didn't.
Okay. Like we're assuming he's back in the Famicom days, and I don't think Mobius art would have translated as well to monster sprites on the Famicom. Toriyama's art was
certainly
very sort of, I don't know, flat shaded, right? Solid colors and distinct features. The scale down well.
Yeah.
I don't know that Mobius could have designed characters that translated well to the Famicom.
Yeah, I mean, the core of Dragon Quest is still beautiful game design, pristine math, the progression, the scale, the scope, that first Dragon Quest is a dynamite, rock solid little Rubik's Cube of game design. But yeah, I feel like the Toriyama art, the hotness of Toriyama, that Shonen Jump advertising partnership that they had, all of those things kind of triangulated together. It's an improper usage of the word triangulated, but they triangled together to kind of just form this unstoppable thing. I feel like the core of the game wouldn't change at all if you had characters that look different. I feel like Yuji Horii is enough of a meat and potatoes, nuts and bolts game designer. And Toriyama has even said in the past in interviews that he loves working on the Dragon Quest games because he just gets asked to design a guy and then he just does it. And he jokingly is like, and then I just get paid. I just design a guy and there it is. He says it's just more of a fun exercise for him, redesigning all sorts of Dungeons and Dragons monsters, etc., etc.
Yeah, that monster design is what he really loves. Sometimes you'll see Toriyama characters that are a mix and match of his other characters and outfits, but when he's drawing a big dumb dinosaur, you can just tell that he's living his best life.
Yeah, I love his orc design. His orc is one of the best video game character designs, in my opinion. Really hilarious, really good looking monster.
I like his big cat.
Oh yeah. Big old weird panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Guy knows what he's doing.
Okay, question 5.
Okay.
What would be the best type of game to release in weekly small installments over 5 to 6 months, like a TV show?
Yakuza game.
Mm-hmm.
I think you make a Yakuza game and you have each episode be an RPG, like a Witcher-like RPG. Something like Cyberpunk 2077. I feel like it would have to be every month. It would have to be monthly episodes.
I think I agree with that. I want every month a weekend game. Not more than that, I think. I want to it's just enough to not wear out its welcome and just be a solid weekend. And I'm going to sort of not answer. I'm going to say what it shouldn't be, which is like episodic adventure game. Like we tried that. It just wasn't right. Yep. I was playing the original Sam and Max series and stuff like that. And I don't know if I was ever like looking forward to the next one. It was more just like annoyed that I didn't have the full game.
Well, yeah, and people even say, I'm going to wait till they're all out until I play it. Like,
right.
People will like resist the structure.
Those episodic adventure games also were so, because of the design of adventure game, the puzzle spaces are always so limited within each chapter.
Yeah.
You never had this like overarching like quest. It's always like, I guess you got these 3 trials to do in this one, these 3 locations, and that's what I'll do. And you never felt any sense of like kind of progression or growth. It was always very much like, you just felt every episode felt so self-contained. And I guess that's the problem, right? Is like making something that people would return to like on a weekly basis and feel the growth, but also giving them an ABC arc like on kind of a weekly basis. Funnily enough, I don't know if this would be my answer particularly, but talking about Dragon Quest in the last question made me think of how the Dragon Quest games tend to work, which is like, if you just played the last one, it's like, and they're sort of a lot similar like this, where it's just like, you go to a town, people are like, oh, there's this thing happening in this town, you solve that thing, and you go to another town, right? Like,
yeah.
Meanwhile, you have your character storyline going on in the background. So I feel like that type of setup would be good. The problem, of course, is like, even in the last Dragon Quest, like if the way I put it down for like, a week, I was like, what the fuck am I doing again? Like, what's my character's growth? What am I doing? So that stuff was really hard to make work in a way where people would come back on like a weekly basis and not feel they've forgotten what the hell they're doing. But like, I think that like that type of system of like something happens every week with a story arc that reaches an overarching story arc, and Dragon Quest does that fairly well, I think, the way that they structure their stories.
Yeah, each town segment hub of a Dragon Quest game is kind of just it's like either an episode of an anime or a multi-episode arc. Like on One Piece, we'll have a 9 or 10 episode arc where they're fighting against one guy in one situation. So it's like Dragon Quest kind of naturally divides up into those little 8-episode anime arcs, right? And I feel like there's like a boss you can fight to get to the end of it, and then your guys will be like, well, now we've got to go here, but the road is closed. They're still fixing the bridge, right? And then maybe there's some side quests we can do, and then 1 month later, one real world month later, the bridge is fixed, right? And our guys, we've been just, hanging out in the inn at this town for 1 month. Now we're going to continue our journey, right? I feel like that would work really well.
I agree.
If there are just little side quests, side stories you can do that keep you, optional things that you can do to enjoy the game. I think one important thing, if you're making an episodic video game, the easiest way to combat the extreme, just the legion of people who say, I'll play the whole thing when it's all out, is to like not be like Kentucky Route Zero, which did not have any kind of schedule at all. And just, here's part 1, and then, 4 years later or whatever, here's the next one. And then like 42 years later, here's part 3. And then 96 years later, here's part 4 or whatever. Like whatever their schedule was. I think you just tell people, we have 12 episodes of this game and they're coming out in the next 12 months, 1 per month.
So is the ideal thing we're describing just what MMOs do?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so single-player MMOs.
They also have somewhat erratic schedules, but they do change stuff up every month or so. I feel like if you can just kind of siphon a little bit of that off into your single-player RPGs, Yakuza and Dragon Quest are already 2 games that would be very, very easy to break up this way. But also, I mean, have you noticed lately, there's the streaming TV shows, right? Where they release all the episodes at the same time. And then there's the streaming TV shows where they release 1 episode at a time. And nobody talks about the ones that get all the episodes released at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
You notice this?
We all know this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like nobody talks about the ones where they release all the episodes. Everybody was talking about Succession. Nobody was talking about, can't even think of a show they weren't talking about because they weren't talking about it. Right? Et cetera, et cetera. I watched that show, Hulu's The Great, where they just released all 10 episodes of the 3rd season at once. And it's like, oh, you could have probably released those once per week and, drummed up some artificial buzz on the social media. Anyway, it's RPGs. It's Japanese RPGs. The old style.
Holiday events, baby. Let's do this too.
Yeah, they've got instance content already. Like sometimes you'll go back to an old town later in a Dragon Quest and there'll be new stuff going on there. So it's like they could kind of feather in the content as you go. You're going back to old places.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great.
Yeah, that was the problem. Not that the game design would have supported it, but something like a Sam and Max really felt like, because they'd already made all these environments, they could just keep building out the world with each episode, but that's not reality. It was just kind of like Mathew described. It was like, here's the 3 locations for this segment.
Is it just me, or does Sam and Max sound like a store that sells fish? Thank you.
It's time.
Thank you.
Let's take a break.
Does Sam and Max sound like a store that sells fish? Get it? Like Office Max, right? Salmon Max, right?
Oh, I honestly, that only now do I get it, because I
Oh, because you're from Scotland where they pronounce it Salmon? That's a joke.
No, we're from Scotland. We don't have Office Max.
You don't have Office Max. They've got Office Max where you live here now, though, probably.
I mean, if you said Salmon Staples, then the joke would have worked, which we also don't have in Scotland.
Question 6. What futuristic sports game would make the best transition to real life, assuming an unlimited budget?
Futuristic sports video game?
Like Bill Lambert's Combat Basketball.
Right, or like Speedball or Speedball 2.
Cyberball.
Is there a Speedball 1? I don't know. Mathew, you're our expert here. You come from a PAL territory.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that it's very, very cruel that Brandon isn't here, because although it's not a video game, the futuristic sport he'd want to talk about is jugging from that movie. Is it called Night of the Jugger? I'm confusing the name.
Blood of Heroes, aka Skulls of the Jugger.
Skulls of the Jugger, yeah, which is sort of like football, but as an American football with skull and stuff like that. And
there is a Jugger League. There's like an independent league in Australia, I believe.
No, it exists. I have seen it perform once when I was in Austin or near Austin. There's like a Ren fair, right? I went to. I drank mead and I watched people jogging.
The future's now.
God, that rules.
So the future is now. So the answer is basically, I guess, jogging works perfectly fine. But like, I mean, I suppose people play all these fucking made up sports, don't they? They play fucking the one from Harry Potter, right? Like,
Yeah, I don't know how they do that, but
Yeah.
sure.
they just run about with like a plank between their legs or something.
That's not the game.
That's not really futuristic, though.
It's not futuristic. You're right.
No, it's more pastistic.
Well, it was given an unlimited budget. So like given an unlimited budget, we could invent a flying broomstick, I believe.
Yeah.
That
True.
they could use.
But
Yeah.
I don't want to get. I know Harry Potter shit. Like,
Yeah, let's not get into
let's not get into that.
I think the difficult thing is making a sport that is fun but would not instantly kill people. Like Rocket League, you could do it, but like no one would survive the game.
Well, they wouldn't have to be in the cars though. Just drones.
Mm-hmm.
But is that interesting?
No, as we proved with all of those robots fighting each other, however many TV shows there were where people build robots and make them fight each other or whatever. Those boring as heck. Why would anybody watch that?
I just don't think there's anything inherently interesting about a sport being futuristic. Do you know what I
agree.
mean? Like, because it's always just going to be like chucking a ball about or hitting each other, right? Like, and if it's robots doing it, doesn't make any better. Which is weird because, like, I guess if I was to be like, I'm going to play a baseball game in the Neo Geo, I'm going to play the futuristic one rather than the not futuristic one. But like, or I'm going to play Soccer Brawl rather than Super Sidekicks or whatever like that. But I think that's just for the virtue of like you're playing a video game as opposed to something unusual, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, and Speedball 2 is one of the greatest games ever that's not, the klaxon goes off because I again mentioned Sense of World of Soccer, which I have to do every episode. But it's not the futuristicness of it that makes it inherently interesting. It's the fast, slidey mechanics, right? So like,
Mhm.
and you don't need unlimited budget to make a game where people throw balls and punch each other.
You do need a really high budget to get away with Mutant League football. You know, to not like go to prison and stuff like that.
I think if we want to say Mutant League football is a futuristic sport in so much as you make clones.
Yeah.
Like you're like basically each team has like a Formula One engineers team worth of like scientists who are cloning and making like absolute Frankensteins to play football against one another, and they're just killing okay, right? And it's like legal and kosher and everything because they don't give them souls or whatever during the cloning process. They make sure they don't have souls.
The big switch that says "Give them souls, no souls," and you
Turn
keep
it off.
click, turn it down to no souls.
I mean, I think given an unlimited budget, having just like human animal hybrid clone Frankenstein psychopaths killing each other whilst playing football would, in a way, push us a little bit closer. The minutes to midnight, a couple minutes closer to midnight, where midnight equals the American dream than real football does.
Here's the thing, though: XFL has already failed twice. So I mean,
Well, I think this real life mutant football league where this old MYOM, make your own mutants. I really think that could be something.
It's the ethics that'll get people tuning in too, just wondering if it's right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to you as the league president because you have
The league president
unlimited money.
The league spokesperson is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's like, this is ethical, actually. This is really good.
Cloned with a soul.
This is really good. There ain't a soul in him, so it's fine.
They checked, no soul in there.
Yeah, we've developed tests to test them for souls.
It took our unlimited resources, but we can now detect souls.
The quarterback of the Sacramento Gargoyles tested positive for soul this week. so they've had to set him up with a condo, and he's now off
and a really well written apology. Which cost a lot of money. It was a really, really good apology. It cost several $1 million, but it doesn't matter because our resources are infinite.
And then you got people on TV doing the punditry about, well, what about he killed people on before 2 weeks ago he killed this guy, and it's like, is it okay for a man with a soul?
Well, it doesn't matter. All TV is run by the league because we have an unlimited budget, so it's all just propaganda.
But is it okay for a man with a soul to kill a man without a soul? Right? It's a little weird, isn't it?
But in this situation, zombie Tom Brady would be a child. He wouldn't understand what he was even doing.
Zombrady?
And time. Okay, question 7. Has any game captured the elegant action of Yuen Woo Ping's fight choreography?
No. Shooting Eagle Heroes, Shacho Eiyuden for PSX is what you call it if you don't want to call it PlayStation 1 or the original PlayStation, is a Japanese role-playing game developed by Shuhei Yoshida and the boys at Sony Computer Entertainment Japan in the late 1990s, came out in the year 2000, and it is a all Chinese language RPG that has really cool camera movements in the battle scenes. When you fight people, you do punches and everybody's dodging, and it looks really cool. But that's the closest I believe any game has ever really gotten. I've played that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon game. I've played that Jet Li game. They don't come as close to just a basic turn-based RPG that has nice animations in it. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is in the word choreography, right? Like, if you're playing a game, there's no choreography in it, right? So, like, there's no example I can think of where it's like you just do things as you would do them and they come out looking really beautiful and cool, right? There's always, even in the most, like, fun, like, fighting games or, you know, your Yakuzas or whatever, there's a button mashiness to it that makes them always look sort of, like, silly and ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Especially for anybody else walking into the room watching you play. You might be too invested to notice how stupid it looks, but if you're watching somebody else play or you're watching back footage of yourself playing, the Yakuza games look like nonsense. Like, no offense to them.
Yeah, I don't think it's like something that you can really expect from a game. Like, I know that people have tried to do it, but like it's that old thing of like interactivity versus like empathy, right? Like, so it's like when you're watching one of these movies, like it's the choreography and the camera work and the bone crunching that helps you feel part of it, whereas like anything you do like that in a game which takes away your agency actually pulls you away from it, right? Like, so like the best you could hope is like to create like, you know, as you're saying, like a turn-based fighting game where like, you know, certain things cause certain things to happen and then it's portrayed to you in a beautiful way, but you're not going to feel as close to it as you are, conversely, as you are chucking a bicycle at a guy in Yakuza, right? So it's like different tools for different, you know, aims.
So when we talk about Yuen Woo Ping's choreography in martial arts movies, it's not just the choreography of the fighting, and it's not just like the staging or the composition of the shots. Like he'll do a thing where he'll keep both fighters' bodies fully in frame, shot from profile, but it's also multiple types of camera movements. He'll do big camera movements and he'll do subtle camera movements, like tilt down just to show a guy's foot just as he like moves the foot, then tilt back up to show the foot collide with the guy. And the fact that often he was operating the camera himself, especially in a lot of those earlier movies, and is himself a skilled martial artist. And the cameraman is like part of the choreography. Whereas in video games, we have been for coming up on 30 years now asking the player to also be the cameraman of their own cinematic experience, while also be the cameraman and the actor at the same time. There's other things in Yuen Woo Ping. It's editing as well, right? Like the famous technique of having a punch about to connect, right? And then cutting to a part where the fist is further back and you get to see the punch go through almost its full motion again, right? Like you'll see the punch just about to connect and then you see it from a different angle following through and connecting. Like, I don't know. There's just all sorts of little techniques that I feel like asking game designers to design them and asking players to keep up is just kind of a fool's errand. And I feel like I've got to go ahead and give a point to got to give it to the movies on this one, Carl.
Matthew's idea is interesting, though, of kind of replaying at the end. So it's like, it's herky-jerky, it's stilted when you're doing it because you're operating it. But then it kind of replays the fight in a way that is more cinematic so you can enjoy sort of what you just did. That's interesting.
I think Shacho Eiyuden does a neat thing where you'll like choose to use a particular technique against a guy, and then your guy goes forward and he'll just launch into like each selection of the fight command, and it's a pure turn-based RPG, no real-time elements. Each selection of the fight command causes your guy to jump forward and just start punching, right? Like multiple times. And the other guy might block, right? So you're sitting there after you choose fight, and you're watching these really cool choreographed Yuen Woo Ping-esque camera movements, and these quick edits and cuts while your guy is punching and kicking at the enemy. And it might go on for 5 seconds. It might go on for 10 seconds. You might score 3 hits. You might score 2 hits. You might score 8 hits. You might be clapping your hands and pumping your fists as you score all 12 hits on the guy or whatever. But usually there's a bunch of randomized blockages happening. And I guess that's one way to take a turn-based game and spice it up. And it's also one way to take actual attention to detail for as regards kung fu movie action choreography and pump that into a video game as well. Because a lot of blocking and dodging and getting hit and falling down in those movies.
Okay, question 8. What game is most improved by promoting and powering up the lowliest enemy and their mechanics to be the final boss?
The lowliest enemy.
What is this question?
Yeah, this is a weird question.
It's like, do you have any idea where this question has come from? Like, what's a specific example of this you can even give?
I don't know if there is one. I mean, part of it could be there are several games where a lowly enemy become like Kefka in Final Fantasy VI.
That's true.
Goes from being a lowly enemy into more of a final boss.
That is true, yes.
Oh yeah, there's a few other games where there's like a joke character, right? That eventually becomes like really hard to beat or something.
I think the funniest example of that is Don Flamenco.
Oh yeah.
In Punch-Out, like the first time you encounter Don Flamenco, he's like taunting you and he's ready to go, and you can just immediately stun lock him forever and he's down. You know, he's just the easiest thing in the game. And he's a joke enemy.
Well, he's the second easiest because Glass Joe's your first guy. But yeah,
Glass Joe is I'd say harder than Don Flamenco.
You think?
Well, yeah, because Don Flamenco you just stun lock forever. Like Glass Joe, you have to like stop punching sometimes.
I guess so.
But then Don Flamenco comes back and he's like somehow made it into like the next league up. You know, like he's had this whole career without you, where he's like actually become a pretty decent boxer. I don't know. I think that's really funny.
Yeah, he's beautiful when he comes back.
But that doesn't really answer the question, but it kind of does.
I think it's
right?
good,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a weird concept, really. Like, I know we've been talking kind of sort of cinematically a lot of the questions, but like, you know, like in like a traditional sort of story, right? Like the character who's like weak and then gets beaten up and then comes back stronger is normally like the hero, right? Like you'd expect that to be the character that you're on side with. So the idea of being like there's a character that you as the protagonist beat the fuck out of at one point, and then they come back and they're much harder and you beat the fuck out of them again is actually just sort of like, it's mean. Why am I doing this to this person?
I believe there are multiple Batman games where the first and last boss is the Joker.
That happens in Dark Souls 3 too. In Dark Souls 3, the first boss that you fight is like hard.
Is the Joker?
Yeah, it's the Joker. The Junker. Yeah, you fight that first boss again later, and he's much harder. And so you feel like you're going to be like, okay, I got this guy's number, and it's like even harder. What a taunt.
That rules.
I don't know what else to say about this. Like, I'm like theoretically, if you were to power something up as the final boss, maybe like I'm thinking about stuff like Super Mario Brothers, where the boss doesn't actually feel like the rest of the game to me.
I feel like we fought a giant Goomba.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if you had to multiple jump on something? I mean, they've explored this many times since then, but that to me feels like a more logical boss. Is like an enhanced Goomba that you have to figure out how to jump on multiple times, and it's sort of a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be difficult to do in that very, very limited game. But I don't know, man.
Yep.
I don't know, man.
Let's go to our lightning round.
Why not?
For today's lightning round, we've got a Scottish Games shootout.
Oh dear.
Every game on this list was created or developed in Scotland, except you will have to choose which one is the real one and which one is one that is made up.
Okay.
Let's begin. A Bonnie Odyssey versus Sword of the Mountains.
Bonnie Odyssey
We have
sounds
to
made
figure
up.
out which of these two is fake. Yeah, I'd say Bonnie Odyssey.
Let's go with Bonnie Odyssey, yeah.
Bonnie Odyssey is real.
No, well.
This is an interesting topic for a lightning round because I feel like almost every one of these is going to be answerable with, I don't care, but let's keep going.
Very well.
This is good. This is good pure podcast content. Let's go.
Fort William versus Big Crown Showdown.
What was the first one?
Fort William.
Fort William.
I'm going to go for Big Crown Showdown. Fort William is a place, but you could have named a game after that.
Oh, this is good. I don't care, but also, Where are you throwing your hat, Frank?
I'm still juggling them. So Fort William, and what's the other one?
Big Crown Showdown.
I'm gonna say Big Crown Showdown sounds real.
Yeah, I am too. It sounds like a DS game or something.
Yeah, kill me, bro.
That's correct. Big Crown Showdown is real.
Ugh, I fail again.
Daddy didn't care, and I won because I didn't care. That's the secret.
Next is Isle of Jura versus Baron Blaster 3000.
Baron Blaster. I don't know about that.
Did you say Baron Blaster?
Yeah.
That has to be fake. I'm really bad at this if this is not fake.
I hope that's fake. If you'd said Imagine Party Barons, I would have
But then
believed.
I don't know why you would call a game Isle of Jura necessarily, but sure, fine.
I think I'm going with Baron Blaster being fake. I'm team Baron
same.
Blaster's fake.
Same, Baron Blaster's.
But also, if it's like a Wii shovelware game or a mobile game,
It's
that's
probably
like,
it could be like a flash game thing, like in which case that feels like a cheat to me.
I mean,
but
it
okay.
sounds like the kind of Scottish video game name that like the writers of Shrek would come up with, But whatever's whatever.
Sadly, everyone is correct. Baron Blaster 3000 is not real.
Yeah, not real. Okay. Phew.
I like calling my dog a wee bairn every once in a while.
Okay, number 4. Clan Folk versus Bell and Sebastian's Tiger Milk, the VR experience.
There's no way Bell and Sebastian Tiger Milk has a VR experience. Surely not.
I don't know. A lot of stuff has VR experiences now, though, bro.
But Tiger Milk, what would be a Bell and Sebastian VR experience like wearing a jumper and going to church?
I don't even really know who Bell and Sebastian are.
Being
That's a
sad,
band, right?
hating your parents.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
take that.
Wearing
Yeah.
corduroys and walking along
I'm gonna say the VR experience is
Great
real.
Western Road. I'm going to say that one's fake.
I just
VR
kind of
experience
believe.
is fake.
I believe in VR experiences that I've never heard of. I think that's Frank's reason for saying that he thinks it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
Is whenever somebody mentions there's you can do this in VR, it's always like the worst possible selling point for VR as a concept, right? It's always like, why would I want that? So that's why I just believe the VR experience is real, even though it's probably not. So that's my answer. Let's go.
Indeed, Clan Folk is real. Unfortunately, there is no Bell and Sebastian VR experience.
Oh,
Okay, next up.
All right.
Drumnadrocket Murder Mystery versus Flea, Flea exclamation point.
Well, there's
FLE.
Bug exclamation point, and that's what Saturn game, but it's not Scottish. Drum the Drocht, I think that's probably real.
I think Flea's real.
I'm gonna go with whatever Matthew Kumar's saying this time.
Frank is correct. Flea is real.
Flea's real?
I'm gonna continue not agreeing with Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to get this release right.
Sorry if anyone was excited to play Drumnadrocket Murder Mystery. Okay, St. Andrew's Links 2014 versus The Procession to Calvary.
Well, what was the name of the first one?
St. Andrew's Links 2014.
Interesting.
So Lynx is golf.
Yeah, that would be golf. Golf being a famous.
Saint Dragons.
St. Andrews, most famous golf course in the world.
St.
A
Andrews.
lot of golf fans in the chat.
St. Andrews. That's more. That's bigger. That's more important golf course than Augusta. Come on.
Yeah.
It's PGA
It's the
National.
original. It's the original golf course, basically.
Yeah,
They
it's
invented golf there.
It's where golf was
It's
born.
windy and shit, but it's golf, which is
Okay, well
shit.
then that one's real. Clearly.
My dad, who's a big golf fan, would always, would always be like, "You see that? That's what golf is supposed to look like." And I'd be like, "Okay, it's not supposed to be all green." And I'm like, "Okay." So I know
supposed to be
well.
a miserable tundra or basically on a cliff face.
I know well of the terrifying hexscape of Scotland golf.
Yeah, I mean, I would say St. Andrews Links. It's probably not real. Let's find out.
It's not real. It's the Procession to Calvary.
Yeah.
Next up, Angus 2050 versus Farewell North.
Angus 2050.
I mean, those both sound like they could be fake, which I guess is the point of all this.
Yeah.
Sure, Farewell North. I'm just gonna go with my gut. It's served me badly this entire time, so.
I think Kumar's gut is due. I'm gonna go with whatever he just said because I kind of stopped caring. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I'm too high over here, and I'm checked out. I got the Sony PlayStation State of Play on my TV.
The team is correct. It's Farewell
So
North.
far, they haven't announced a new Jack and Daxter yet, but I'm paying attention until they do.
Here's hoping. Let us know if they do. We'll go live.
Well, I'll update the podcast listeners if they announce a new Jack and Daxter.
Next up is Cairn Mather's Curse versus the Nine Maidens of Dundee.
Nine Maidens of Dundee, huh?
That's okay. But again, my gut says Nine Maidens of Dundee is fake. So the other one.
What was the other one?
Cairn Mather's Curse.
It's just too hard to say. No, that one's fake.
There's a person I know on the TV right now.
Tim, are you going Cairn or Dundee Maidens?
Cairn or Bairn? What is it? The Bairns of Cairn? Is that it? What?
It's Cairn Mother's Curse.
Is that what they call children of the corn in Scotland? The Bairns of the Cairn? What? What was the question? Dundee's curse?
Cairn Mather's Curse versus the 9 Maidens of Dundee.
9 Maidens. 9 Maidens of Dundee sounds like too many, so I'm going to say it's 9 Maidens of Dundee. It's not real.
That's correct. It's not real.
Oh, I did
Last
it.
one. Fates of Ort versus Act of Disunion.
Fates of what?
Ort. O-R-T.
Fates of
Interesting.
Ort.
I think that one's real because that is a terrible name that someone who makes video games thinks is a good name.
I'm with Frank on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah. I'm putting all
That
my
is
chips.
correct.
Okay.
Fates of
going-
Ort is real.
I was about to say I'm going all in on that. Oh, there's a Ghostbusters VR experience being announced for PlayStation VR 2.
How timely.
If I told you there was a Ghostbusters VR experience being announced for PlayStation 5, it would be impossible for you to choose between the two replies, okay, and I don't care, right?
Yeah, it would be
Right.
impossible.
It'd be impossible to choose. It's like the okay implying I don't disbelieve that because I don't disbelieve anything anybody tells me about VR, and then the I don't care because who cares?
Usually my go-to is a beat and then just going, sure.
Okay.
I'd like to mention that all of the games that we've mentioned today are for sale on Steam right now for a Scottish game sale 2023 that benefits charity. This charity was also retweeted by Mathew's zine Twitter account. So technically you could have easily seen all of these, but
I could have, but I just sight unseen shared it.
Is the name of the charity Cancer Bairns? Is that
oh
it?
my god.
you are so close. So it's Games for the Weens.
The games for the weens.
Not Weens, Waynes.
The Waynes, yeah.
Waynes.
The Weem ones, I believe is what that's short for, right?
It supports Glasgow Children's Hospital charity.
Is it pronounced Glasgow or Glasgow?
You know how it's pronounced. It's pronounced
And
Glasgow.
people from Glasgow? People from is that a reference to Glass Joe's Glass Jaw from Punch Out?
Yep, that's actually is what it is. We
Gotta
renamed
be.
it
He
in
founded
the
the city.
80s.
Is it pronounced Glasgow or is it Glasgow?
It's a funny one to pick because normally people have more difficult with Edinburgh, I would say.
That was exactly what I was. My joke that I was making was pretending that Glasgow is the hard one to pronounce. People from Glasgow are Glaswegian? Is that what they say?
Yep, or just Ouija's.
Or Luigi's. Little Luigi's. Do they like Luigi over there? Is he like their mascot?
That's why they're named that, right?
Well, I mean, only if he's in the toilet
Man, can you imagine if there's like a
because
Luigi's?
he's a Luigi.
Luigi. Oh, very good.
Mm.
Can you imagine if there's a Luigi's Mansion 4 or 5 or whatever godforsaken number they're up to now? That's my new character guy who pretends there's 2 Luigi's Mansion games or too many Luigi's Mansion games. They make a new Luigi's Mansion instead of Gooigi. They've got Glass Ouija.
Aren't they making a new Luigi's Mansion? Didn't they just announce one today?
Yeah, they announced one on the Direct today. I think it's a remake.
It's a remaster of Luigi's Mansion 2 for the Nintendo 3DS. My new character, guy who pretends there's more Luigi's Mansion games than it's possible to count.
But wait, there's 4 Luigi's Mansions games now, but technically there's only 2 because there's 2 that have been redone twice.
Sort of, yeah. 5 and 3. Is that it? There's 5 of them, but there's 3 of them, or there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them, but there's 4 of them. Who knows?
Let's go to recommendations.
I'm seeing double here. 8 Luigi's
There's
Mansions.
9 Luigi's Mansions.
Frank, do you have any recommendations for the
Now
week?
that's a guy who has a lot of video game houses.
Yeah.
Recommendations. I guess I'll promote my other podcast, even though it's part of the outro, because I don't remember if it was on mic or not, but Mathew Kumar mentioned the making of Karateka, and I just had Jordan Mechner on the Video Game History Hour.
I know that guy.
Along with Chris Kohler, talking about the making of Karateka, both the product and the concept of making Karateka.
Jordan Mechner, is he the guy who made all the shoes, or is that Michael Jordan? Thank you. That's my joke. Thank you. Is he the guy who made all those shoes? Because his name is on the shoe.
So it's a pretty good episode, I think. Maybe go listen to that.
Great transition. Just ignore that joke and just
Hey,
keep moving.
I wonder what it's like to have a good episode of a podcast. What's that like, Frank?
Well, I guess one day I'll find out, but today's not that day.
Oh man, they're showing that Avatar game, dude, and the state of play.
You got any recommendations, Mathew?
Avatar, bro.
Yeah, you should definitely buy some games in that Scottish game sale that I knew all about.
What about Avatar 2, The Way of Water? Would you recommend that, Mathew Kumar?
I gotta tell you, I had a really fun time watching that movie.
Yeah, me too. I had a really good time.
I did not like the first one at all, but the second one is so funny. I mean, like, there's nothing funnier than like a guy meeting a huge space whale and him being like, "Yo, bro, what's wrong?" And the whale being like, "Oh, it's too difficult to talk about." That's so funny.
Yeah, that stuff rules, dude. That whole movie was like, I was high as heck. And I hadn't even taken anything.
It's great fun. That movie is great fun. It's not my recommendation though. I mean, do something else other than watch an Avatar movie. Like give money to Scottish games charities. But yeah, it's a fun one.
This Avatar game actually looks pretty dope. Like, what's going on here? Why does this look so cool?
No, because you know it's Ubisoft, right? So you know exactly what's going to happen. Jake Sully's going to appear. He's going to have all these abilities, and they're going to take Jake Sully's abilities away, and you're going to be stuck with Jake Sully with no abilities. And you're going to climb a bunch of fucking towers to make the area appear and gain your abilities back. It's not going to be good.
That's probably what's going to happen, yeah.
Tim, do you have any recommendations for the week?
Oh, of course not. I don't do that on this show.
I recommend that you watch Raining in the Mountain, directed by King Hu. It's a sort of heisty, philosophical kung fu film. It's great. Not enough people have watched it, and it's really philosophically deep. I would love to talk to you about it. I also recommend you rate and review this show on any site that you can. Talk about us on Nextdoor or iTunes or Farmers Only, wherever you go. This show is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. I'm MoxBagel.
I'm Frank Spaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
And I was Mathew Kumar.
And please attend to your unblasted bairns.
That was such a cruel trick to play, by the way, the fucking charity thing, because I just honestly just was like, it's like there's an artist, Neil Slorens, did the art for the thing. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just retweet that. I'm not even about looking at it.
Actually, I had a moment earlier today where I was like, wait, does he know about this? It's going to completely ruin my game. And I looked on your Twitter, it's like, he doesn't. Wait, he has a zine Twitter. And then, yeah, it was on there. So I was like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, very badly for me.